I installed 26 hidden cameras in my own house to catch my nanny doing something terrible. But what I discovered instead destroyed everything I thought I knew about my family. And by the time I realized the truth, it was already too late. My name is Isabella. I'm 40 years old, a single mom from Chicago. And until last year, I thought I had control over my life. I had a stable career as a corporate attorney, a beautiful home in a quiet suburban neighborhood, and most importantly, my 6-year-old daughter, Olivia. She was my whole world. After my divorce 3 years earlier, I worked hard to rebuild our lives. I promised myself that no matter what happened between me and my ex-husband, Ethan, Olivia would grow up in a safe, loving home. But I had no idea that the greatest threat to my daughter was already living under my roof. I hired Claire 6 months before everything fell apart. She was 27, soft-spoken, polite, the kind of person who looked you in the eye and made you feel instantly comfortable. She had glowing references, a degree in early childhood education, and experience working for a well-known family in our area. When she first met Olivia, something magical happened. Olivia, who normally hid behind me when meeting strangers, walked right up to Claire and hugged her. "I like her, Mommy," she whispered. That was it. Decision made. At first, Claire was everything I hoped for. She cooked healthy meals, helped Olivia with homework, kept the house clean. Sometimes when I came home from work late, I'd find them both asleep on the couch, Olivia curled into Claire's arms like she'd known her forever. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. But slowly, small things started to feel off. It began with Olivia saying strange things. One night during dinner, she looked up at me and asked, "Mommy, are you going to leave me too?" My fork froze midair. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" She shrugged. "Claire says sometimes mommies leave when they get busy or find new families." My chest tightened. I forced a smile. "Well, that's not true. I'm always here for you." She nodded, but her eyes looked uncertain. Later that night, I asked Claire about it. She laughed lightly. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry if I confused her. We were talking about a movie where a mom travels for work. I must have explained it badly." It sounded harmless, so I let it go. But then other things started happening. Olivia became clingier, more anxious. She'd cry when I left for work, even though she'd been fine for months. One morning, as I was putting on my heels near the front door, she grabbed my leg and whispered, "Please don't go. Claire gets sad when you're here." I froze. "What?" But she just shook her head and ran off. That was the moment something inside me shifted. I started noticing changes. Claire would go quiet when I entered a room. She'd quickly switch topics when Olivia mentioned something. Once, I walked into the kitchen and heard them whispering. When they saw me, they both stopped. Claire smiled, "Just talking about her art project." Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe I was projecting my fears after my messy divorce. But then my neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, mentioned something that made my stomach drop. "I saw your nanny at the park yesterday," she said casually. Looked like she was arguing with someone in the parking lot. Arguing? Yeah, with a man. He looked angry. My heart started pounding. "Did you recognize him?" She shook her head. "No, but your daughter looks scared." I went home early that day. Claire greeted me with her usual calm smile. Olivia was coloring at the kitchen table. Everything looked normal. Too normal. That night, I barely slept. A thought kept circling in my mind. What if something was happening when I wasn't there? So I did something I never thought I would do. I installed cameras.
Not 1 or 2, 26. In the living room, kitchen, playroom, hallways, even the backyard. I told myself it was for security, for peace of mind, but deep down, I wanted proof. The first few days, nothing unusual happened. Claire played with Olivia, read books, made snacks. I almost felt guilty for suspecting her. Then, on the 4th day, I saw something that made my blood run cold. I was at work when I checked the live feed. Claire was sitting on the couch with Olivia. They were talking. At first, it looked normal. Then, Claire said something that made me lean closer to my phone. "Sometimes your mommy gets very busy," she told Olivia softly. "And when mommies get busy, they find new families." Olivia's eyes widened. "Will she leave me?" Claire paused, then slowly nodded. "Maybe one day." My hands started shaking. "What you need," Claire continued gently, "is someone who will never leave you." Olivia whispered, "Like you?" Claire smiled. "Exactly like me." I felt like the air had been punched out of my lungs. Was she trying to replace me? I kept watching. Claire hugged Olivia tightly, almost possessively. "You know," she whispered, "I could take care of you forever." My heart slammed against my chest. This wasn't just inappropriate, it was terrifying. I left work immediately and drove home like a maniac. But by the time I arrived, everything looked normal again. Claire was making pasta. Olivia was laughing. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed more proof. So that night, I watched every camera, every second. And what I discovered next shattered me completely. At 2:13 p.m. the next day, while I was at work, someone knocked on the back door. Claire opened it. A man stepped inside. My heart stopped. I recognized him instantly. Ethan, my ex-husband. I stared at the screen in disbelief. They hugged, not casually, intimately. He kissed her cheek. "What are you doing here?" she whispered nervously. "You're not supposed to come during the day." I miss her. Her. Olivia. My entire body went numb. They sat at the kitchen table. Claire spoke first. "She's getting more attached to me, just like we planned." I felt like I was going to throw up. Ethan leaned back in his chair. "Good. The custody hearing is in 2 months. If we show she's unstable with Isabella, we win." I couldn't breathe. Claire nodded. "I've been planting the idea that Isabella might leave. Olivia cries when she goes to work now." Ethan smirked. "Perfect." My hands started trembling so badly I almost dropped my phone. They were manipulating my daughter, emotionally breaking her just to take her away from me. Then Ethan said something that made everything even worse. "Once we get custody, we won't need Isabella at all." Claire hesitated. "And after that," he smiled coldly, "we'll be a family." I felt like my entire world collapsed in that moment. I left work immediately, but I didn't go home. I pulled into a parking lot and just sat there shaking. The man I once loved, the woman I trusted with my child, working together to destroy me. Tears blurred my vision, but then another thought hit me. If I go home now, they'll know I know. So instead, I did something smarter. I saved every recording, every second. For 2 weeks, I pretended everything was normal. I smiled at Claire, chatted with Ethan during drop-offs, and acted like the perfect, clueless ex-wife. Meanwhile, I gathered evidence, enough to destroy them. The night I confronted them, Ethan had come over to visit Olivia. Claire was in the kitchen. Olivia was upstairs playing. I walked into the living room holding my phone. "Sit down," I said calmly. They looked confused. Then I pressed play. Claire's voice filled the room. "She's getting more attached to me, just like we planned." Ethan's face went white. Claire's mouth dropped open. The room fell silent except for the recording. When it ended, I looked at them both. "You tried to take my daughter," I said quietly. Ethan stood up. "You invaded our privacy." "Our privacy?" I laughed bitterly. "You were plotting to emotionally damage a 6-year-old. Claire started crying. I didn't mean..." "Get out," I said coldly. They left without another word. I changed the locks that night, and the next morning I went straight to a lawyer.
The recordings destroyed Ethan's custody case. Completely. The judge called his behavior psychologically manipulative and deeply disturbing. He lost all custody rights. He now only has supervised visitation once a month. Claire tried to apologize through messages. Long, emotional texts about how she fell in love with our family. I never responded. But the damage to Olivia took longer to heal. She had nightmares, separation anxiety, trust issues. We started therapy together. Slowly, she began to feel safe again. And one night, months later, as I tucked her into bed, she looked up at me and whispered, "You're not going anywhere, right, Mommy?" I kissed her forehead. "Never," I promised. Installing those 26 cameras felt extreme, paranoid, almost crazy. But sometimes your instincts know the truth before your mind does. I trusted the wrong person, ignored the small signs, and almost lost the most important thing in my life. So here's what I learned. If something feels wrong, don't ignore it. Protect your peace, protect your family, and trust your gut. Because sometimes the people closest to you are the ones hiding the darkest secrets. Have you ever trusted someone you shouldn't have? What would you have done in my place? Comment below. And if this story shocked you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You never know which story might save someone next.